Vikas Sheel, who is also the mission director of Jal Jeevan Mission. I thank where we will be discussing about the way ahead in the Jal Shakti Abhiyan. And I also thank APAC News Network. Please don't show yourself on screen, APAC, for arranging this conference. And without much ado, now I would request Vikas Sheel, Mission Director, Jal Jeevan Mission, for his opening remarks.
Thanks, Archana. And I'd like to confirm whether I'm audible. Can somebody confirm?
Yes, sir.
Audible, right?
Yes, you're audible, Vikas.
Yes, audible.
Okay, thank you. So at the outset, I welcome all the colleagues who have joined us from the districts for this meeting on Jal Shakti Abhiyan. As you're aware, this year, the theme of the Abhiyan is source sustainability for drinking water. You must also be aware that under the Jal Jeevan Mission, the districts are working very hard to achieve the saturation targets by 2024. Various districts are at various levels of progress. But keeping in mind that it's not only important to erect the infrastructure to provide the functional tap connections, but it's also important to make sure that the pipe water supply schemes do sustain for their life cycle. This year, the ministry thought that the source sustainability, especially for groundwater sources and for spring-based schemes, is taken up on priority. So the focus for this year's campaign has to be on this particular aspect, though of course the JSACTR, all other activities in terms of rainwater harvesting, water storage capacity augmentation, plantation, water conservation, etc., will go on. So that being the background, I'm sure that by now all the districts have received the guidance note issued by the Department of Drinking Water and Sanitation for the kind of activities that should be undertaken for identification of sources, identification of recharge structures, planning for recharge structures, undertaking those works and completing those works in time, preferably leveraging or piggybacking on this year's rainfall to the maximum extent possible. This year, we've also identified 150 districts as water stress districts. Some of you might be wondering why your district is in that list, because today we are talking to half of those districts, district teams. So basic criteria for selection was that we consulted with the respective state governments. Of course, one was that we should have footprint over all the states and UTs which are covered under the Jal Jeevan Mission, which is all states UTs except Delhi and Chandigarh, because these do not have any rural areas. So that being the case, some of the districts have been picked up from every state and UT other than Delhi and Chandigarh. Within that, we talked to the states and we took a feedback in terms of history of transportation of water during summer through tankers, and tried to list those districts where we have had instances of having the need to transport water during summers through water tankers to make sure that drinking water is available. That plus the data which is available from the Central Groundwater Board in terms of groundwater aquifers being overexploited, critical, etc. So a combination of that, but priority was given to include districts where we have history of water transport through tankers in the last 3 years. So it may have so happened that in the last year after Jal Jeevan Mission came, perhaps this problem would have gone away, but we thought that any area where in the last 3 years we've transported water through tankers, these are the areas that should be prioritized so that going forward, especially schemes which are based on groundwater, do sustain and we don't have the need for transporting water. Basic activities, as we have said in the guidance note, include geotagging of groundwater and surface water sources. Now, just to share with you, and I'm sure that district collectors would be aware that Jal Jeevan Mission has a integrated information management system on which the district PHE people enter information. And therefore, all the information regarding schemes, pipe water supply schemes, is available on the system. Every scheme is tagged with one or more drinking water sources. So it could be a combination of groundwater plus surface water, or exclusively groundwater or exclusively surface water. In case of surface water, we only include information about treatment plants and not the dams and reservoirs. But unfortunately, over a period of since our IMIS dates starting from 2014, the information on drinking water sources is, there's a lot of clutter in the information. So we thought that making use of this opportunity will clean up the database and clearly identify and geotag the drinking water sources, which are the sources for pipe water supply schemes in the country. So, for example, in NRDWP, National Rural Drinking Water Program days, the focus was on providing access to drinking water through common infrastructure, such as hand pumps and public stand posts. So those sources are also captured in the IMIS. Now, so the first task that we thought that we should complete is to geotag all our drinking water sources which are associated with pipe water supply schemes, and the community assets which are otherwise available but not used for pipe water supply schemes. We should geotag them also, but then we should filter out the sources on which we need to focus. The other idea is that especially in these water stress districts, we must identify at least one recharge structure for each of the groundwater sources or the spring source. Surface water sources, we believe that the whole maintenance, etc., of the canal systems and irrigation systems and dams and reservoirs should take care of that. And there is reservation for drinking water in those schemes. And so that aspect is something which perhaps is difficult to address in a campaign like JSACTR. So we thought that we'll just focus on groundwater sources for which we can do something, and the spring sources for which we should undertake the catchment area works to make sure that the springs remain rejuvenated and sustainable. So that there is another aspect, and that is that in the Gangetic Plains and in some other areas where the areas are river basin areas, the water table may be pretty high, and therefore you may not need a recharge structure. If that's the case, then that also we are saying that should be captured. But we must take a look at each of the sources and identify if a recharge structure is required or not. If a recharge structure is required, then it should be identified. A plan should be prepared, and its status should be checked whether the existing structure requires any further work or not. For example, if it's a village tank, does it require desilting of the top layer at the bottom of the tank to make sure that the percolation does happen? If yes, then there should be a plan prepared for that. The work should be prepared. It should be included in the GPDP. Most of these works will be done through NREGA or through 15 Finance Commission grants. As you must be aware, 30% of the 15 Finance Commission grants to local bodies are tied to water. There is another 30% which is tied to sanitation, and water and sanitation can be used interchangeably. If the needs of either is fulfilled, it can be used, the funds can be used for the other aspect. So a plan should be prepared, and that work should be carried out. We have advised that preferably we should try and complete these works by 30th of June, so that we can tap the rainwater this year itself. We've also suggested that while planning this, we should identify certain monitoring sites. So these could be dug wells in the villages to just keep a watch in terms of the effectiveness of our interventions. So before and after measurements, so to say, should be done. So pre-monsoon, we should measure the water table, and then post-monsoon, we should perhaps in the month of October take another reading of the level to just see whether the source identified or the structure identified for recharge of a certain groundwater source, whether it is effectively leading to such recharge or not. So that's another aspect that would need to be taken care of. In terms of the tools available for geotagging, we have the Har Ghar Jal app, which is already being used by the PHE staff. Through the app, the PHE staff does the Har Ghar Jal certification, which I'm sure that you are all aware about. So in a village where there's 100% reported coverage, a Gram Sabha certifies that this village is now Har Ghar Jal certified. So all that process is captured through the app. There's a feature in the app for geotagging of JJM assets. So that feature should be used for geotagging of the water sources as well as other assets. So make use of this opportunity when you're tagging the source. It will be worthwhile to tag also the overhead tank and perhaps the walls and perhaps the pump house, etc. So rather than making separate multiple trips for tagging one particular type of asset, perhaps a comprehensive approach will be better. It will be more efficient and more fruitful. The basic data for in terms of how many sources, how many schemes, how many groundwater sources in the district, how many spring-based sources in the district, all that is available on the IMIS. So please ask your PHE people to get you this information if you already not have looked at it, and start working on the basis of those denominators, so that nothing is left out and the things are covered comprehensively. We will be developing, and Archana, you can correct me if I'm wrong. So we do have the geotagging feature. We've also included in the feature an option to tag the recharge structures with the groundwater sources, and also the geotag the recharge structure. So that feature is also there in the app. But since it's a new system, it will need to be mature. It will need to mature. And therefore, what we have thought is that for the purposes of reporting of progress under the JSACTR for the next 3 months, we would have a form for progress report developed on the JSA portal where the districts can directly report. Otherwise, if we just wait for the APIs to come about and the data to start flowing, it may take a bit of time, and time is short. So we hardly have 2.5 months left. So what we thought was that you please start the works on war footing, lead the effort. We are all aware that, and we've emphasized this in our guidance note also, that district collectors are going to play a very critical role in successful carrying out of the JSACTR, not only the theme of source sustainability for drinking water, but also the overall overarching objective of the campaign. So with that, I'll stop. And if there are any questions during the course of this interaction, I'll be happy to address and answer. Over to you, Archana, back.
Thanks, Vikas. Actually, the agenda is like this, that after Vikas's opening remarks, I have a short presentation, which Vikas and I will both jointly present. The part on source sustainability, he will present. The part on JSA, I will present. And after that, we have two PPTs by two very dynamic DMs, Sandeep, who is DM Chhatarpur, and then Prakasam, DM Dinesh Kumar. So perhaps we'll have Prakasam first because he wants to leave early. So after our presentation, Vikas and mine, we will have these two DMs presenting. And after that, it will be open house for discussion for resolution of queries. And so may I request a pack to upload my presentation? First half is mine, second half is Vikas's. But since we have a captive audience here, which we've got with much mashakkat, so we will also not only be talking about JSA, but also be talking a little about the National Water Mission, because National Water Mission has been, completely confused to be Jal Shakti Abhiyan Catch the Rain. So it is not just that. So I'll just explain in a little while. Next. Okay, so why are we looking at water in such a way that, time is like running away? So a few of the stats is that we have 22.4% of the geographical area, 18% of the global population, 18% of the global livestock, and only 4% of freshwater resources. Also, India, you would know, is the greatest extractor of groundwater. We extract more than US and China combined. So we are the greatest extractor of groundwater resources despite the shortage of resources. There's also a very startling fact that we, next. This you would all know because you're all in the field that 100% of our rainwater, or at least 90%, falls between June and September. And that too, in June and September, it is just 15 days instead of 100 days that we get almost 90% of our rainfall. So there is a lot of spatial and temporal variation. And that is why we preponed the Jal Shakti Abhiyan campaign, so that you get a lot of time for preparatory activities, which was to be completed by 31st March. And the effect, the debilitating effect of climate change is also having an impact on this spatial and temporal variations, wherein you have rains when it is actually not warranted. Then you have long spells of drought. You have the glaciers melting, so shortage of water. Next. See, we have 20 basins. So you would be shocked to know that out of these 20 basins, only 7 basins are outside the water stress or the water scarce level. The orange line is the water stress, that is 1700 meter cube per year. If you get that water below that, then you're water stressed. And if you get 1000 meter cube per year, then you are water scarce. This is the Falcon Mark index developed by a great lady who loved water. And see where Ganga is. And what is the reason? This is because the water availability is divided by the population. And 40% of India, I think, lives on the Ganges plain. So despite, water being available, Ganga is already in the scarce basin, except for 7 basins like Brahmaputra, which is in Assam, where I come from, Barak, and, some of these small basins which are near Bangladesh and West Bengal. Narmada is almost on its way. Then these western rivers and are also on their way. So you can see that this burgeoning industrialization and urbanization and population increase has caused so much stress on our per capita water availability. So that is why, it's an urgency. We may not think that it's an urgency and water will be available all the time, but it is an urgency, as this slide shows. Next. Now, NCI did a study in 1999, and they have said that the maximum amount of water which we can store is 1126 billion cubic meter. That is the maximum amount of water which is there, which is, from wherever, heaven, rain, river, groundwater. This is the only water we have. And our projections and demand, as you can see from the slide, is 1180 BCM. So, and most of it is in irrigation, in the agriculture and the irrigation sector. There's also this projection by an ICR study that from 300 MT in 2020, our food grain demand is going to go up to 450 MT. So where will we get that water from if it is just 1126 here and there and nothing more? So we are right now till 2025, we will be under the scarcity level, but we are shortly going to, the way next. The way we are going about, spending water carelessly, we are shortly going to reach, go back to the previous slide. See, apart from this, another problem which is there is that, in policy also, before Vikas and DDWS came up with this bright idea, even in policy here in MOJS, we have been looking at the supply augmentation, that increase the water for tap, increase the water for irrigation. We have not been looking at demand reduction. So now MOJS over the last few years, especially under JJM, when so many crores of taps started getting and reaching the households, there was this realization कि पानी रहेगा तब तो मिलेगा ना tap में. So we not only have to increase the source, increase the supply side, but we also have to reduce the demand side, because as you can see, 1126 BCM is the only water we have. Next. So it is under this that NWM has 5 main objectives. The first is public data, data on water in public domain, and mitigating the effect of the climate change. Now, data, as we all know, which Vikas has also said, is a huge, though all of you have some kind of data, but we don't have a good integrated data set. Neither are we using, except for a few states which are doing really well, we are not using the newer, methods of data collection. And second is promotion of citizen and state action for water conservation, augmentation, and preservation. This is where Jal Shakti Abhiyan is located. It is in goal 2, but that's not the only goal. Our third goal is also focus attention on vulnerable areas. So that is why this year we are collaborating with drinking water to focus on those 150 districts where drinking, the source of this water supply to the tap is unstable. Then the fourth is relating to demand reduction. I will talk about the constitution of the Bureau of Water Use efficiency. And fifth is basin level integrated water resource management, which as DMs you may not be so involved, because this is something which, concerns states, like Ganga is a river basin. So it's basically NMCG, which is more involved in this. And we have a directorate like National River Conservation Directorate, and we have CGWB, CWC. So these are the agencies which are looking at goal 5, that you look at river as a basin and not as like UP ka river, to Bihar ka river, to West Bengal ka river. So, and the main focus of NWM is conservation, minimizing wastage, and equitable distribution, both intra and interstates, and also reaching the last mile. Next. So Jal Shakti Abhiyan genesis was through a Man Ki Baat dialogue in 2019 on 30th June, wherein PM Modi said that, we should, he just started it as a dialogue that traditional water heritage structure should be, should be revived, and people should involve themselves, community should participate, so that Jan Shakti for Jal Shakti happens, and he gave this clarion call for Jan Shakti for Jal Shakti. So after that, next, in 2019, we the Jal Shakti Abhiyan was launched in 1592 blocks, 256 districts, and these were again the overexploited blocks. So Jal Shakti Abhiyan till date, I would say, is more focused on Western India or in areas where there is, or South India, where there's water scarcity, than on Northeast and other states where water is not so much scarce, but it is, of course, temporal, spatial, and there are other issues. So it started with a more water scarce area kind of abhiyan with, a focus on water conservation, rainwater harvesting, afforestation, watershed development, reuse and recharge of borewells, and renovation of traditional and other water bodies. So it really had a good impact. And then in 2020, next, it was, expanded to pan-India. And there were certain other components which were introduced. First, tagline was introduced: catch the rain where it falls, when it falls. And then enumeration and geotagging of water bodies was also introduced. Removal and encroachments and desilting of tanks was introduced. Removal of obstruction in the channels. I mean, there were specific activities which were given. Repair of traditional water harvesting structure, rejuvenation of rivulets and rivers, and conservation and restoration of wetlands was the 2020 catch the rain. But COVID came and it impacted the Abhiyan, though, and it was mostly on video conference, and mostly webinars were organized. So it didn't make much of an impact. Then in 2021, next slide, it again came with a new vigor, wherein setting up of Jal Shakti Kendra, I tell you, DMs, if you can set up through whatever sources, you have a functional Jal Shakti Kendra in your headquarter, like the Krishi Vigyan Kendra, you would have solved half your problems. Then intensive for afforestation, if you can do, apart from another enumerating and geotagging, which in Vikas's slides you will see is such an important, I know that you have limitations, you don't have people. So Vikas has also come up with this idea of JJM fellows. So he will be discussing all these later. So Jal Shakti Abhiyan 2021 was a big hit. Next. Then in 2022, suddenly the realization dawned that nothing was being done for the northeastern area, for the hilly districts. So spring shed development, because you see maximum hill areas, the source of water is the spring, and protection of water catchment area. And then came our biggest, because abhi tak we were doing work, bullying the DMs and DCs and saying, manage the funds, but then came Amrit Sarovar with a 65,000 crore package, and the grants under the 15th Finance Commission, and clear guidelines were given that, the Amrit Sarovars and Narega funds, most of it has to be used for water. So we made a lot of achievement. I'm happy to report that at least, out of 750 odd districts, 264 districts have made water conservation plans, and 78 crore reforestation has been done. Around 70,000 training programs have been held. And with Nehru Yuva Kendra, we have almost touched 3.2 crore people. Then 39 lakh water-related works were going on. And 632 Jal Shakti Kendra has been established. We have issued an advisory. I really don't know whether it's functional or just in name you have established. So we have issued a very detailed advisory, which I have attached in the DO letter sent to all of you. Please read that. As DMs, we are so busy, we don't read anything. But if you read, it will really stand you in good stead, because we have also indicated where are the things from which you can pull up resources, where are the things you can, seek help through NGOs and other things, where are the things from where you can pull up people. So, but we are also thinking of, making this maybe a scheme, but that I can only go to the cabinet to say, make it a big scheme when, I will be able to show some success that, okay, these DMs are the ones who have done fantastic on geotagging. These DMs are the ones who have done fantastic on Jal Shakti Kendra. So, but as of now, we are not funding it. Next. Now, this advisory has been sent to you. We are wanting it to be the central focus. Earlier, it was called the Rain Center. Please, we don't want it to be called just the Rain Center. We want it to be called the Jal Shakti Kendra as a one-stop solution to all your water bores in your district. So these are the data. We have sent the advisory to states. Any DC who does that will get an award from JSA. Who makes a functional Jal Shakti Kendra without an iota of money from asking from us. We are going to, have a special session and awards for JSKs and geotagging. Next. Now I'm very happy to announce that, as I was saying, that Bureau of Water Use Efficiency is now going to look at the demand side reduction, because we only have 1126 BCM of water. So we have notified it, and we have set up a task force to look into it. And this will basically be looking at the irrigation sector, industry sector. We will be going in for blue labeling, like you have, the star labels for LED and all. We will be going in for blue labeling. We will be going in for having pilots on water footprint, like, 4260 kg of water is needed to produce, a liter of water is needed to produce a kg of rice in the water stressed areas, whereas only 2360 liters of water is needed to produce that same paddy in Eastern India. So you see, we are looking at crop diversification and how to, especially in agriculture and irrigation, on how to go about reducing the demand for water, and especially, for urban areas, we are going in for this recycle, recharge, reduce, reuse, and respect for water above all. Namami Gange has also tied up with 50 vice chancellors. They just signed a MOU wherein they are going to ignite the young minds through in rejuvenating the rivers. We have tied up with Nehru Yuva Kendra. Then we have a host of JJM and us. We have a host of NGOs with whom we are tying up to help you geotag, to help you build the Jal Shakti Kendra. So that is all from me. And now next. Of course, we had this very successful conference at Bhopal, wherein we are also preparing the Water Vision 2047, and Honorable PM had addressed it. Next. Okay, these are just some pictures to show that, all our inaugurals have been either by Honorable President or PM. So don't take our program lightly. Next. Just because we don't give you money. Now, these are the features of JSACTR 2023 campaign. The first one is what Vikas will talk. Jal Shapat, Amrit Sarovar, Spring Shed. We especially want to focus on the Northeast, not because I come from that cadre, but Northeastern Hill districts under JSA have till date been not so focused on. Then protection of water catchment area, promotion of Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav is another thing which Honorable PM wants us to link in all our campaign and intensive IC activities. And I know because I've been DM, Vikas has been DM, nothing gets done without you guys. So over to you, Vikas. Next slide.
Thanks, Archana, for that comprehensive presentation. Most of what is there in the presentation, colleagues, is something that I've already said in my opening remarks. I'll quickly run through this. Just to put things in context, around 66% of our households currently are reported on IMIS to be based on groundwater schemes. And that was another reason that we wanted to focus on groundwater. We're one of the countries that extract the highest amount of groundwater, as Archana also pointed out in her presentation. And many of the schemes in northeastern and Himalayan states are based on springs. So spring shed management or conservation is going to be one of the key activities. So all this I've said, Jal Shakti Fellows is something that we thought that, over a period of time, Jal Shakti Abhiyan, this is now the 4th year of the campaign, and we thought that it would be good to have some sort of an institutional system to maintain continuity and continuity across various phases of the campaign. So what we have said is that there are district program management units under the Jal Jeevan Mission, which are there to assist the district collectors. We have asked the states that they can depute additional HR from the JJM funds as Jal Shakti Fellows, one in each district, including in 150 districts. So we are saying that in all 730 districts. So please see if that kind of an arrangement has been done in your district or not. If not, please reach out to your secretary PHED and just find out what the arrangement in the respective state is. So rest everything. Next, please. Next slide, please. Okay. Is that all?
No. I think it just got stuck.
I believe that will be a relief to the colleagues in the districts. It's been a pretty long presentation otherwise.
I think we don't catch them every day. They better suffer.
Yeah. Okay. This is what we have told the states to designate a state nodal officer. This is for the common Jal Shakti Abhiyan. For the source sustainability effort, we have said the state PHED departments or the department dealing with the rural water supply will be the nodal department for this particular theme, because they handle the data and the PWS pipe water supply schemes. Next, please. As I said, geotagging of all drinking water sources, planning for appropriate recharge structures. We've also shared the standard operating procedures to do risk mapping for identifying vulnerable sources. Please go through it if not already done. Of course, in the timelines, we had said that planning should be completed by 31st of March. But please take a look. If you require any assistance in the form of something not being very clear, and you'd like your team to be, the team's capacities to be built, please do reach out to us. We can organize training programs in virtual mode so that people obtain better clarity about the SOPs and the various types of structures that could be, the recommended structures for a certain context. As I said, another important aspect which I missed out in my opening remark is source protection. So the groundwater sources, as per the water quality monitoring and surveillance system, there should be a sanitation survey carried out for every groundwater source once in a year, preferably twice a year, once before monsoon and once after monsoon. The idea is to see that the groundwater source, within 50-meter radius of the groundwater source, there are certain things that should not be there, and there are certain things that should be there. So there are certain do's and there are certain don'ts. Now, these things should be physically observed by our teams visiting these sites. Many a times these groundwater sources are not very conspicuous in appearance. So people would actually not know that there is a groundwater source at that place. So what we've advised is that there should be some sort of vegetative fencing around the 50-meter area. There should not be any landfill site within 50-meter radius. There should not be any water stagnating in the 50-meter radius. There should not be a recharge structure or a soak pit within 50 meters, because then the risk is that the contaminated water may leach into the groundwater source and therefore, contaminating the groundwater source. So please go through that. We've requested that certain do's and don'ts, signage, two types of signages we have suggested in the guidance. One is that identifying that as a groundwater source and displaying that this is a groundwater source, and therefore within 50-meter radius, certain things are not to be done, and whatever needs to be done should be done before the onset of monsoons. Now, these things we would recommend that should involve the Gram Panchayats in doing these things, because if the people take ownership of protection, and they can easily do it through the money available through the 15 Finance Commission grants. These are not works or things which require large sums of money. But of course, the awareness among the panchayats about the importance of source protection, that we should build. And as I said, our identification of monitoring sites, etc. Funding also, just a bit of clarification, for any direct recharge structure, which could be an injection well, or it could be recharge shaft, and there are these engineering structures available. These can be funded under the Jal Jeevan Mission, and we have already advised the states to take a look at it in view of the campaign and the theme. And I believe at the state level there is action on this. But please do reach out to your state level leads or to us if you think that things are not moving and you would like to move faster. Otherwise, even if they can be financed under JJM, they can always be financed through Manrega, Integrated Watershed Management Program, CAMPA, PMKSY, 15 Finance Commission, and DMRDF, DMFD, etc., etc. And please do involve communities so that there is visibility in effort, that people get to know about the importance of groundwater source protection, source recharge measures. And the visible impact will come only if people actually confirm that some change has taken place. So please involve the communities from the beginning. Let it not just be a PhD exercise, because that is not going to lead to other kinds of spin-off benefits that can come about, as Archana was talking about, in terms of demand side interventions, because those are largely going to be dependent on our connect with the community in terms of communicating the right type of messages to the community. Next, please. I think that's it. Next.
No.
Next.
There is. क्या हो जाता है? अच्छा, तो म्यूट मत करना.
Yeah, next slide.
Ah.
Yeah, so timelines, we've given broad timelines. Preparation and planning 31st of March. So if not yet completed, please try and complete as soon as possible. Don't wait for the planning to be completed. As soon as something is identified, your team should get going and start implementing. The idea being that we should not lose time and try and complete as much as possible before the onset of monsoon. 30th of June is just indicative. We do understand that onset of monsoon varies across the country, and therefore in some of the districts, this 30th of June could actually be 31st of May or even 20th of May. So please do take a look and get these works done. In October and November, October, we're suggesting that a verification should be carried out in terms of whatever work was done, how far that work has yielded benefits through these monitoring sites and water levels. Uh, uh, you may also note that the central government is deputing central nodal officers for each of these 150 districts. So your district will, and I'm sure you by now have got the information about the CNOs deputed for your district. They will be visiting your district once before monsoon and certainly once in the months of September, October, at the time of verification, etc. The CNOs would act as a link between the district and us and the state. Please feel free to reach out to the CNOs or even directly to us in terms of any assistance that you may require. Some of the KPIs that are included in the guidance document, I'm sure you're aware of these. And we will work on the reporting mechanisms to work out the relative performance of various districts on these parameters. Next, please. That's it. I think, Archana, this
we just have the role of DMs and Vikas.
Yeah. This is the overarching kind of a role. So basically, we are saying that under the theme of source sustainability, please focus on groundwater sources, drinking water sources, and filtration plant for surface water sources for the pipe water supply schemes. But apart from that, every district should have an inventory of all the water sources and capture that data in the relevant platform. Water conservation plans should be prepared. As Archana was pointing out, Jal Shakti Kendras should be set up. I'm sure states are working on this, but if you have a plan and you're finding, funding difficult, please reach out to us. We can also try and figure out, maybe get you more help from the state level to get things expedited in your district. And of course, DMs will have the critical role of leadership in the whole effort.
Next,
yeah, one aspect of so there are two indicative checklists that have been prepared, which have been shared with you. One is for the theme of source sustainability for drinking water, the other being the overarching JSACTR activities. And we would be requesting you to provide progress on those indicators, through the information on these checklists. So please go through these and start putting systems in place so that this information can be collected, compiled, and reported. Next. Next. Yeah, so that's it. So another thing that I would like to just supplement is that Archana was pointing out that there might be a capacity constraint for data entry. So what I'd suggest is that this year we have given a lot of leeway to the states for engaging the required HR for the purposes of implementation of Jal Jeevan Mission. We are currently at 60% coverage. This is a very critical year for Jal Jeevan Mission, and understanding that, we have ask the states to engage as many people as required for anything that has to be done. So please use that, have deploy sufficient number of data entry operators, not only, and it's a request that district collectors must review what are the arrangements for data entry, not only for JSA, CTR, but also for JJM. We have seen that in the JJM IMIS, there is usually a backlog of around 15 to 20 days in terms of things getting done in the field and getting reported on the portal. And that also after a lot of push from the center. And those messages will go from here to the state will communicate to the districts. Half of them will respond in time, half of them will not respond, or perhaps will not be appropriately sensitized. So the district collectors can actually play a very critical role in making sure that you and us are aware in terms of where we are. So please review this. Whatever is required to be engaged, there is no dearth of resources for putting systems in place for reporting work that is being done, whether it's in terms of provision of functional tap connections or geotagging of sources or reporting of expenditure or updating the status of schemes in terms of which schemes are started, which schemes are completed, which schemes, what is the expenditure in a scheme, and whether a village is 100% reported, whether it has been certified, whether the certification has been reported. So all those things we've been consistently asking states to not be too miserly in terms of deploying sufficient human resource for making sure that we get the updated information reflected on the JJM IMIs and the dashboard. I'm sure that you all must be regularly looking at our dashboard. Archana, if you allow me, I'll just show them some uh,
Sure, go ahead.
some live dashboards that we have.
We can't get.
Oh, so the light has gone off in Deen Dayal Bhavan, so Vikas has got disconnected. He will rejoin. Now, about funds, whatever he said, don't ask me for funds. He is the money bags. Then Atal Bhujal Yojana also has money. But NWM is just a 15 crore scheme, which is piggybacking on bullying all the others to do our work. But yes, JJM, if you connect to Vikas, he has various sources. They have a lot of IC money. They have a lot of funds. So they can help you. Namami Gange has a lot of funds. So seek funds elsewhere, come to us for technique. So with that, I'm now going to request DC Sandeep GR, DM Chhatarpur, Madhya Pradesh, to please make his presentation. APAC has informed us that you've done some wonderful work. So, we will have these sessions often wherein we will be asking the DMs who have performed well to showcase. And we will have awards at the end of the year between these 150 districts. Yes.
Good morning, ma'am. This is Sandeep here.
Yeah, good morning, Sandeep.
Ma'am, with respect to the JSA and CTR, ma'am, we've started work in our district, ma'am, alongside, as you have been suggesting, and all of the works, we are converging it to bring it under this one umbrella mission, ma'am. So, can we have the presentation, please?
Yeah.
Next slide. This is just a brief of our district. We have a population of around 17 lakh and an average rainfall around 1,000 mm. One of the next slide, please. Largely agricultural economy, ma'am, and always reeling under the financial water crisis, as well as the water scarce areas in Bundelkhand, largely in these areas, ma'am. Next slide, please. The main reason for water crisis being, ma'am, we have a higher rate of soil runoff in the middle segment of these long stretched rivers. There's one issue, ma'am. A low water holding capacity is another concern that we face here, because also largely due to the impermeable rocks at shallow depths. That is another issue. It's a very dry kind of an area. Also, extensive deforestation is happening, ma'am. Largely, mining operations happen here, and hence there's a lot of deforestation too. So that is another challenge that we face here. High temperature. Our areas like Nowgong and Khajuraho are the hottest in the whole of India, in the top 10. So they're really hot, and they reach up to 49 and 48 and 49. And they're really hot. So these are some of the issues that we face. Next slide, please. Ma'am, these are some of the rainwater harvesting and water conservation structures that we have. We've just briefly enumerated the numbers. One point I would like to make here is, ma'am, around for a few years ago, historically, Chandel Kaleen talabs have been created here during the dynasty of the Chandelas. And there are around nearly 400 such structures all over the district. So we have historical structures which have been built for water conservation, which is an advantage. We are rejuvenating all of them now. We have enlisted them and we are rejuvenating them. So that is something that we are doing, working on these ponds and even the bawdis, ma'am. Rest, we are also working on Khet talabs, which is very prominent here. And we're working on check dams and stop dams. Next slide, please. So, ma'am, largely the different activities that we've enumerated are we are creating catchment areas through desilting works and of the sort. We are constructing new water bodies. Ma'am, under the Amrit Sarovar scheme, we've already, in the last year alone, we've created 75 under the Amrit Sarovar. So, in fact, the Honorable PM gave the call for the Amrit Sarovar mission in a program at Chhatarpur. He was virtually there in that program, and the call came from Chhatarpur, ma'am. So we started early, and we constructed 75 such Amrit Sarovars, new talabs, which have really done well. We're doing work in desilting and rejuvenation of water bodies, which is a major work here, ma'am. These Chandel-Kalin talabs that I spoke of have a lot of silt accumulated over the years. So desilting them, we've taken a project since Chhatarpur is an aspirational district. We are working closely with the Niti Aayog, and we're working in terms of convergence of funds, ma'am, as you were suggesting. So we've already spent some projects over the last year of nearly 4.5 crores we did from Niti Aayog funds, and another 2 crore have been sanctioned for desilting, whereby the farmers take this silt and take it to their farm. So the productivity is also increasing of the farmers, moving towards natural farming, and the water retention capacity is increasing manifold. So this is something we've done. And alongside desilting and rejuvenation of water bodies, ma'am, we've realized that the major challenge was not merely desilting these lakes, but also the feeder channels which were being encroached through other farms. So we realized that ridge to valley approach, in the ridge to valley approach, so all along the catchment area, there were some encroachments. So we've been working on clearing feeder channels. We're working on new feeder channels too. Some things that we saw is like a new road came up in that area and it totally cut off. We have a wonderful talab here called the Khop Talab, where we saw a road being built and that cut off the complete catchment, and so there was no water that was coming into it. And so we're now using hume pipes and ensuring that the feeder channels concept is something which we're working on. And we are working on desilting nearly 168 lakes from the Niti Aayog funds, ma'am. And here also we are working on creating fruit forests along these lakes. So at the adjoining these areas, we are creating fruit forests where the community is really involved and the SHGs are involved and they are taking care of these forests. We've already planted 1 lakh fruit forests, keeping in view food security in this part, and we aim at 1 million this year, ma'am. We are working towards that, and the community is involved in it, and it's a wonderful work that is happening, ma'am. In this, while doing this, we also realized that there was a lot of encroachment in the lakes. So we've ensured we started surveying these areas and earmarking the lakes. We've set up chanda stones, and so now all our lakes are earmarked. Their fields are marked, and their entries are made in our revenue records. So previously they were being given as patta land because the entries were not made as talab. But now, since we are making entries in the kasra records, so they cannot be encroached or they cannot be given to others for any other issues, ma'am. Next slide, please. So, ma'am, this is some of the catchment areas that we are creating. We are creating gully plugs. CCTs is something which we are working closely on. We had an issue of convergence, working closely with the forest department, because most of the hilly areas would be in the forest area and the lake would fall in the revenue area. So there was a gap where we couldn't do CCTs because we would only work on the lakes because there would be forest issues. But we've taken that up, and now we are working on CCTs. Next slide, please. Ma'am, the rainwater harvesting structures, and we also working in convergence. Some NGOs are also involved in all our schools, ma'am. We're working with the ICICI bank, where we are setting up groundwater recharging structures. And in all our government establishments, we have now issued orders to that all buildings should have groundwater recharge structures. So that is something we are doing, ma'am. Next slide, please. This is something that we've taken up and which we are again going to do it, and work is ongoing right now, ma'am. We've taken up these old bavdis which were there. This is one bavdi which was rejuvenated, which has increased the water table levels in this region We're working on the Baudis and old conventional heritage structures such as these. Next. Ma'am, in terms of IEC and awareness generation, we are working very closely. We are having these Jal Chopals. We are working with the civil society organizations. We are also happy to share, ma'am, that one such civil society organization, we had a Jal Saheli by the name of Ganga Rajput, who recently won the award also who received the award from the Honorable President for her excellent work that she has done and their group has done in terms of water conservation, ma'am. Next. Ma'am, these are how we are activating. Our Facebook page is also there, ma'am. The Jal Shakti Abhiyan Facebook page and the works that are being done are put up there. Next. Ma'am, we've established our Jal Shakti Kendra and we've also established a control room where receiving water related complaints and all the water mission works that are happening are now there is an umbrella organization or a place where we are doing all of these works, ma'am, and we also updating all of these using the app and working on the portal as well for the same. Our central nodal officer have already visited twice, ma'am, in the past year, and the Jal Shakti Kendra has been time and again reviewed even by the central nodal officer, ma'am. Next. And this is the fruit forest that we are working on, where we are setting up, and now we are planning. We are planning on expanding it to 1 million, ma'am. We already planted 1 lakh, and ma'am, the excellent thing is, in fact, the land on which we set up these fruit forests were encroached previously and they were being used for farming because they were by the lake side, and because of non-demarcation and non-entry of them in the kasras, the local henchmen would have it. Now there is a very positive feedback to this whole program that we did, since the local community and the women there are being involved, and we were able to put off the local henchmen. So there is, in a way, effects beyond merely water conservation. There's also social empowerment that is happening here. Next. Ma'am, this is something which we spoke through the presentation, ma'am. You've done a demarcation of the lakes. We've already demarcated 268 lakes, and we are setting up chanda stones. I couldn't put that photograph on it, ma'am. Maybe later on I'll share it. So we are now demarking them like how forest and revenue land was being demarcated. We are now demarcating these lakes, which is now clear now, and there's no encroachment that is happening. And updation of the land records, fruit forests, ma'am, defining these catchment areas, the feeder channels that we spoke about, ma'am. Convergence is something that we are working on over with all other projects. We're working on convergence, ma'am. We keep it in mind. Any Atal Bhujal beat in Jal Jeevan, we are keeping it on a one umbrella mission to work on, ma'am. Next. This is the Amrit Sarovar that we've created, ma'am. All new structures over the past year. Next. Thank you, ma'am. That's it.
Thank you, Sandeep. It was so fantastic that let me give you a kiss. You know, I'm blowing a kiss to you. I am so impressed. Really fantastic. It's beyond imagination, the kind of hold and domain knowledge you have and the kind of prioritization you've done. Although I'm sure it's not your work alone, it must be the whole team. Who is the beautiful lady sitting next to you?
Tapasya is officer of the 2018 batch, ma'am. She is the CEO Zilla Panchayat here.
Okay, so Tapasya also needs a big kiss, because Jal Shakti Kendra, if I see anybody setting it up without any resources, it just, makes my heart go very dip. There are a few questions. One is that you already have these Jal Sahelis and all. So all these structures that you're constructing, I hope it's technically feasible and not just गड्ढे खोदे जा रहे हैं. जैसे बहुत जगह we've received कि अमृत सरोवर में मैम टारगेट रीच करने के लिए गड्ढे खोद दिए पूरे और वो सिल्ट आ जाएगा. So what is the measure of sustainability in your all your endeavor?
Ma'am, we are combining technical knowledge and community knowledge, ma'am. Both the things we are, because when we work purely on technical domain of our sub-engineers, we were realizing some structures were coming up and locally they were not feasible. But the local intelligence was there with these people. So we've combined both of them, ma'am, and we involve these communities. We are also working with a couple of foundations, NGOs here who are helping us with the technical know-how, ma'am. Whenever we face a problem, like one problem that we faced was when we did desilting of a particular lake, and after the monsoons, we realized they just didn't fill up. So people kept saying, "Is bar barish अच्छे से नहीं हुआ, otherwise they fill होता है." Then we later realized, ma'am, that the feeder channel concept came up from that because there was encroachment along the feeder channel. So we are working on that, ma'am. And now with geotagging and constant monitoring, it will be even better, hopefully.
So
Ma'am,
have you geotagged? Have you geotagged?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. We have geotagged them, ma'am.
You have come out with such चुप रहो मुझे बोलने दो fruit forest ridge to valley. I am so impressed with both of you. And encroachment, I mean, I was GMC commissioner. I could never get the encroachment out, and Bharalmukh could never get into Brahmaputra. So I don't know how you've managed that. And any estimation of, whether these efforts has led to any groundwater, do you have piezometers or stuff like that, where it has led to some kind of any assessment? Because the parliamentarians keep asking us.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, we have the data. We have assessed it pre monsoons. We had our piezometers there, and we have assessed it post monsoons as well. We've got the data, ma'am, through piezometers, well data. We have it. In fact, we've had.
What has it shown?
Ma'am, it's increased in a few places. In few places, it didn't increase. Like I said, ma'am, like the feeder channel concept came up because then it didn't increase in a few places. So we realized that it was because of this particular concept. So it's been a learning for us. In some places, it has increased well, and some places it hasn't.
Okay, this Ganga Rajput, of course, Bundelkhand, we had got a lot of good proposals, but she was the one who has done some remarkable work. So we, our another tagline is, apart from source sustainability, Jal Shakti se Nari Shakti and Nari Shakti se Jal Shakti. So that is one thing I don't want you to lose focus on. Please have these Jal Sahelis, because you already have a whole host of Jal Sahelis who have got such national and both international fame. They're all over. You Google Jal Saheli and all you get is Bundelkhand only. So please capitalize on these existing capitals. And one thing which Vikas also said, and I also keep saying, that it should not be a GR Sandeep led movement, who if he gets transferred, it collapses. This you have to see, that it should not. So all the measures of sustainability, and of course technical also, when you are looking at these, that after 5 years, what will happen to the lakes? It will again, So what is it that you're doing? Because most of the DMs, even when I was DM, I just focused on my tenure. So please look at sustainability again. And in that, we are saying that let it be women. Data has proven that whenever a resource is given to a woman, a water resource, then the management is better. Women, panchayats, SHGs, and even for your fruit plantations, they will be your best guards. So anyway, I'll not take much time, but Sandeep, thanks a ton. Please send us more details on how you set up good functional Jal Shakti Kendra. In our next booklet, we will definitely be publishing it. So please share with APAC all the literature that you have on your Jal Shakti Kendra.
Yes, ma'am.
But with the footfall, you
Yes,
know,
ma'am.
I'm not just taking anything that you guys are saying. I want the number of people visiting.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
taking help, number of phone calls you receive, data which cannot be manipulated. Okay, now
yes.
but thanks Sitan, I am, you know, I am a kind of person who's slightly crazy. So I could jump off my seat and give you both a kiss, but giving it virtually. Prakasham, now if he's
Thank you,
there,
ma'am.
if Dinesh is there and has not left, can I request Dinesh Kumar, DM Prakasam, Andhra, to show
Good
his
morning, ma'am.
presentation? Good morning.
Good morning,
You're
ma'am.
back?
Am I audible? Yes, ma'am. I just came back.
Okay.
I missed some part of your presentation, ma'am, but I could follow through Sandeep's. And I'm glad to share he's my batchmate, ma'am. He's an athlete, and I could see how he runs the.
Which
this
batch is he?
2013 batch.
Oh, guys, then you have trained under me at DOPT. I was your JS in charge of assistant secretary, and you were a very badmash batch.
Yes, ma'am, we were the first batch for the assistant secretary, ma'am, as you remember.
Yeah.
May I, ma'am?
Yeah, please.
Yes, can you please load the PPT, please? The first page, please. Can you go to the beginning? Yeah. Ma'am, as a part of this Jal Shakti Abhiyan, ma'am, Prakasham district, I've been the DM for the last 1 year, ma'am. So once I joined, we kind of set up a team of the people who have well versed about the things happened for the last 1 decade, as well as the data which we could immediately refer upon. So we took first 3 years data, all geotagged national resource management data, what are all the assets we have created. And we kind of prepared a geomorphological map of Prakasham and identified Prakasham into different basins. So as you can appreciate, ma'am, the water resource management to start in a micro level, definitely we should also have a macro level picture of our topography before we get into that. So we made a kind of a perspective, a macro level perspective before delving into the micro level assets what we are going to create. So first and foremost, what we did, ma'am, we collected all the geotagged assets what we have created, and we prepared the boundaries of the basins, and we have also prepared a kind of a boundary of the topography of the entire district. And we superimposed last 3 years data, which we have it clearly. And we found what are all the different works happened, and we kind of analyzed what are the categories of works which happened in those regions. So we were just choosy about the topography as well as the location in a basin, and whether this works what we have carried out or fitting to the purpose and the objective of this water conservation. So we came out with that topography initially, ma'am. Next slide. And Andhra Pradesh, we had our district reorganizations in the last year, ma'am. Go to the next slide, please. Next. Next. No, back. Yeah. The previous one. So, yeah, go back. The fourth slide, third slide, please, third slide. The previous one, yeah. So, ma'am, as the geography, you can see this is the largest district as far as the area is concerned in the entire state, ma'am. After this reorganization, we have 14,300 square kilometers area, and we have fortunately we have almost 30% of area under forest, which is of Nallamala range. And you can see the rainfall also. Average rainfall is just at 84 centimeters. We have 38 mandals, which is a co-terminus with blocks. I mean, 2.5 mandals is equal to a block, a taluk. So all the 38 mandals were drought prone for the last 5 consecutive years. So thanks to the last previous year, we have got some decent rainfall. But for it, it's been a drought prone area for the last decade, ma'am. So so that's the peculiarity of this district. Go to the next one. So when we talk about this water, profile of the district, ma'am, we can, as you can see from 2020 to the last 3 years, there has been a drastic reduction in rainfall. And the groundwater table on an average is around 15 meters. And you can see the red mark in the western Prakasham, where these are all the uplands where they have an elevation of around 700 to 800 meters above mean sea level. And they are overexploited and critically exploited. And these areas are, populated more with the tribals and all marginalized farmers, which are directly depending on the groundwater for the drinking water purposes and the cattle. So with this particular challenge, we started the year with a meager rainfall of just 79 centimeters in the last year. So what we did, ma'am, we kind of, before understanding how the water, how the rainfall is being spread over all across the district and how it is captured and where it is going. So we just prepared a macro level sketch of the entire districts. And we divided the entire district into 4 major basins. One basin is Gundlakama, which is the first and biggest river in the entire district, which covers around 50 to 60% of the geographical area, right from the western catchment areas till the coastal plains. And next comes Paleru, then Maneru and Musi. And there are some minor basins of other small rivulets in the district. Go to the next slide, please. With this background, ma'am, our NRGS profile of the district, you can see we have around 3.6 lakh job cards of our 3.2 lakh households. And we have the total labor budget of around 160 lakh labor budget, which we have generated over and above the prepared labor budget. We have reached to 1.66. You can see that this is the bifurcated district. That's why there is a reduction in overall labor budget from 200 to 166. But still, we are able to do it above the target fixed by them. So, and you can also see and appreciate the total, material component generated is around 250 crores for the entire district. Go to the next slide, please. So, while I was speaking about the topography of Prakasham, ma'am, next, please. Yeah. So, you can see the western Prakasham in green. This is totally covered by Nallamala range, which is very rugged, but not very high hills like Western Ghats. This is around 700 to 800 an average above mean sea level elevation in these areas. And this is a major watershed for all the big rivers as well as the small rivulets for the entire district. So the western are the hills, which we demarcated with a rugged geomorphology, and the central uplands in pink, and in orange it is the eastern coastal plains. So these are the 3 major topography areas we demarcated the district before we understand the basic water conservation strategy. Next. So in the water conservation approach, the western hills Slide number 7. Next. So the Western Hills have a different strategy than the Central Uplands and the coastal plains. In Western Hills, we we concentrate more on the watersheds, then soil conservation because of the elevation and quick passing of the rivers and riverlets, and especially greening of the hillocks. And Central Uplands, our conservation strategy is about water harvesting structures, where we found around 765 such structures which are created by the previous some 400 to 600 years ago, and the renovation of all renovation repairs of all the water bodies which are already created and which are all man-made as well as the natural water bodies. And finally, these are the areas where we have a large chunk of land where which can be used for horticulture purposes. So wherever the water conservation, water harvesting structures and old water bodies, we could improve the ICATs, which I'll speak about the numbers in the coming slides. And third is about the eastern coastal plains, which we have a narrow strip of coastal plains along the Bay of Bengal, where we had a lot of aquaculture as well as agriculture fields here. So we have around 82 MI tanks for which we have created a lot of there channels. So we concentrate more on this MI tanks and feeder channels in the eastern coastal plain, along with the plantations and recharge structures wherever there is an excess outflow from both these western and central uplands, we kind of created and stopped before it reaches the sea by recharge structures. Next. So we demarcated this drainage basins. Like I said, Gundlakama is a river which occupies around 60% of my entire area in terms of the basin. And then comes Paleru, Manneru, and Musi, and other basins. These boundaries, ma'am, it makes a lot of importance in terms of identifying what kind of structures we are preparing and what are the legacy assets already being created, whether they are relevant or whether they are redundant. So these kind of analysis we could be able to do with the help of the a PMU which we set up in our JSACTR Kendras, ma'am, which I will speak about it later. So this is the major demarcation before we get into the micro level works and assets what we are going to do as far as this water conservation is concerned. Next. So the first basin, I'll speak about a few major basins, what are the major basins and what are the activities we have done. And as well as I'll also speak about the topography and its impact, what he has done for the last 1 year. So Gundlakama, ma'am, like I said, this is the largest basin in the entire district. You can see clearly the rainfall, whatever received in these areas. There has been a drastic reduction right from 2021 and 22, last 2 years. You can say a sudden reduction, and it has come to 812 for the last financial year. And the groundwater table, you can see, ma'am, every year we kind of collect it in the May, and this year we could collect some data for the March also to check what is the improvement that has happened. So you can clearly see, ma'am, from May, the water table was 19.66 meters, and it is again raised to 19.58, and again the water table raised to 19.55. So we have an average, though there was a drastic reduction of rainfall, we were able to maintain the water table as good as possible due to the structures and the various interventions which we did. So as the major part is in this Gundlakama basin, the major part is in the watershed area, like I said, the Western Prakasham. We concentrate more on the dugout ponds in the hills as well as the staggered trenches. You can see around numbers are around 895 such numbers in the last 1 year itself, and dugout ponds of 1021 in all this in the uphills. So thereby we could be able to retain the water, whatever we collected during the scarce rainfall regime, and we were able to kind of maintain the groundwater table to a maximum decent level possible. Next. The second basin is Paleru. You can see the structure or the next one. Slide number 10. Yeah, you can see the diagram, how it shows, ma'am, that water collection areas are less, but the outflow is faster than the Gundlakama. So to reduce the, the speed of water, which is reaching the Bay of Bengal, we kind of concentrate more on check dams all across the thin basins, as well as the dugout points, dugout ponds, which we made it in the hills. So these two intervention helped us to retain the water before it reaches the Bay of Bengal, thereby also recharging. And this has also helped in improving the minor irrigation tanks on the course of this entire river. So you can see the number of check dams are very high, and the farm or dugout ponds are very high in these basins. And you can see when since the water, the rainfall has a drastic reduction, we can see the water table has increased to a substantial level, which otherwise is a very, very problematic. Whatever the central part of this entire basin is very problematic area where we have influx of this, the groundwater has fluoride content. So we have a kind of laboratories which constantly check the fluoride contents every month, and we could see there is a dilution in terms of this the water, which is up to 2 ppm work. That is the threshold which we have reduced during the course of our intervention period. So we can see there was a drastic increase in the groundwater table because of these focused and custom-made interventions in such basins. Next. The third largest is Maneru, which is also a thin basin which is covered, and it has a little bit of sharing of some of the tributaries as well as the watersheds in the nearby district. Almost 80% of the entire basin is with the Prakasham, and around 20% is the neighboring district of Nellore. So here, though the rainfall is good because of northeast monsoon, this comes little south of the district. So we could receive some more rainfall in the northeast monsoon, and as you can see, there was a drastic improvement in the groundwater table. Right, it started with 9.27 and it has raised to 7.85, and last year up to March we could achieve 7.24, which is a drastic increase. And here also we focused more on the percolation tanks and the dugout ponds, which have the major intervention strategy during our strategies for the entire 1 year. Next. The last one is Musi. This is also going through important habitations where the population is densely situated. So we have some problems in terms of the water courses being encroached and all, which we could able to do with the help of the local bodies and the revenue machineries, and most of the structures were corrected to focus those areas which are cut off due to the encroachment in terms of, by means of both agriculture as well as some construction fields. So after convincing the farmers about the importance and the impact what we are going to create about bringing out these interventions, we could able to do a win-win to both the farmers as well as the our strategy, ma'am. Here you can see the course of increase of the water table is been also very constant, right from 11.24, 11.25 little dip, and again it come back at 11.15. So here was here is also the strategies about the check dams. We have in the middle area we have a hillock, major granite hillocks in these courses, which we kind of gone with the more check dams from these locations, and also we could use some of those granite quarried locations as a percolation tanks, so that that were also being used for water recharge structures on this in this basin map. So the number in terms of check dams are a little high, and percolation tanks and staggered trenches in the hillocks were also given importance in this particular basin. Next. Next, I come to the topography, which water conservation, which has both topography as well as drainage basins. When we could understand more about, next one, slide number 14. Yeah, these are the minor basins which I already had touched upon. So coming to the topography, 14th slide, please. So a water conservation strategy is two sides, man. One is the topography of the of the surface, as well as the basin, how the basin is formed because of the various drainage structures. So Western Hills, where which is a source of various watersheds of various rivers, we can see our total number of walks what we have created in these locations where dugout ponds, which are the major number, and the staggered trenches. So these trenches had played a really a magical role in terms of reducing the soil erosion. And these trenches were also dotted with plantations as to sustain that. Sustain that threshold what we are going to create, what we are creating along this staggered trenches. So the check dams were done very systematically wherever the water hit the pediment of the particular drainage basin, and this has actually created a lot of retention of water in the upper Western Prakasham. This Western Hills, like in the first slide, you can see the red color mark where there was a serious depletion of groundwater. And as in the introductory marks of Vikas sir has also pointed out very clearly that how the intervention in these water depleted zones is going to help the coming water scarcity in terms of drinking water. So here also, ma'am, you can see our groundwater table, though it has been increased very marginally, but in locations where there were habitations, we have Chenchu tribals dotted all along the Nalamala forest, and there were habitations which are totally out of any kind of a groundwater or surface water. And around 126 such habitations are all being transported 100% through to tankers. And we had to find a source literally around 20 to 30 kilometers away from these locations. And as I was also mentioning, these areas are the fluoride content of the groundwater is also very high, and it's very unsafe for any kind of attempt to take the groundwater here. So last 1 year with the program, the JSACTR Abhiyan, with the help of the app, we geotagged all these structures, the old borewells, the deep borewells what we had in the southern side of this Western Hills, as well as the new borewells which we attempted the last 3 years. And we have identified water conservation structures in those areas after geotagging. So we have the complete data which is available in the JalShakti Kendras, where every work approval which comes to me for any kind of a proposals in NRGS as well as watershed development will be analyzed with the data which are all the depleted areas and what kind of works they are proposing. So with this analysis, we are very choosy about what kind of interventions we are going to approve. So the JalShakti Kendra comes very handy, where we have integrated all the data together with the systems as well as a good resource for monitoring the entire project. So this is the Western Prakasham, though I'm not satisfied with the number of increase in terms of the groundwater, which we need to do a multiple fold. Because in locations of the deep borewells, for the legacy borewells which are out of water, there were situations around 300 meters of borewells which is still not fetching any single drop of water in the western side. So we need serious interventions, ma'am. We are focused on recharging those structures in the Western Prakasham. Next. This is a central, I would say, what are the impacts if you see our water storage area. Next slide, slide number 15. The water storage area has been drastically improved with hectometers to 2050 hectometers, and our water groundwater was table was maintained decently with a little bit of increase, though they were highly depleted areas. And we could increase this irrigation eye cuts. These are very small eye cuts created with the small dugout ponds as well as the MI tanks available. And you can see in the pictures, ma'am, these are the staggered trenches which had done a magic in terms of reducing the soil erosion and as well as reducing the speed of water coming downhill. So we could improve this irrigation eye cuts of 6,150 acres for the poor tribals, so Chenchu tribals who were given lands in the from the forest rights. So we have also the land development project as well as the horticulture plantations happening in this areas of around 6,150 acres. And in the hillock greenery, we could intervene around 2,000 hectares for the last 1 year. And we were able to sustain the sustainability of this plants also to a major extent. We were having a hit rate between the 60 to 85% in some locations where the water we could retain. And these plants are coming up very well, and definitely they're going to be a big asset in the future. Next. The central uplands, I mean, this is the second topographic regime of the entire district. You can see the interventions overall. It's more of a restoration ponds or tanks.
Dinesh,
Around,
if you don't mind, we have to wind up in another
yes, ma'am. I
10,
have
15 minutes,
2 more minutes.
and we want some time for discussion also.
Sure, ma'am.
So,
I'll take 2 more minutes, ma'am. It's done, ma'am.
yeah.
Yes, ma'am. So our restoration, I mean, our interventions in the central uplands were more of ponds and tanks, restoration of old ponds and tanks, which could, I mean, give a lot of fillip in terms of our groundwater. And the next major intervention is about the dugout ponds. This is about the central uplands. Next. The result is the water storage area around 1,700 hectare meters have been increased, and we could increase the irrigation adequate into a substantial level, ma'am, around 5,338 hectares, because the central uplands, like I said, have a huge landmass of dry lands. And with the help of these things, ma'am, this time with a millet mission, we are bringing back the lost area of around 7,000 hectares of millets. Previously, we had around 23,000 hectares of millet cultivations in the entire district, which has drastically fallen to 9,000 hectares. With the help of this intervention, we are bringing another 6,300 hectares in this area as an intervention to bring back the dry millets, which you have mentioned, ma'am, how we have, this is the intervention to reduce the demand of water, which otherwise been used for bajra, even for the paddy in those areas. So this intervention of 6,000 acres will definitely reduce the water requirements in these areas in the central uplands. Next, eastern coastal plains. Last one, slide number 18. Our intervention here, you can see, ma'am, the feeder channels, 848 works. So this has actually facilitated more the farmers hereby with a combination of intervention, the restoration of ponds and tanks, which we use it for irrigation, as well as intervention in the feeder channels.
Wind up, please. Otherwise, you're leaving no time for discussion. Everybody is saying
Yes,
it's too long, Dinesh.
Yes, done, ma'am.
The good presentation doesn't mean that you should be able to say it in a short year. So 2 minutes, or I'll be muting it.
No, ma'am, done, ma'am. Next slide. Next slide, please. Ma'am, you can see this impact here, ma'am. The groundwater storage, we had a substantial increase. And next, some glimpses of what the interventions, what we made. Slide number 21. Next. You can run through the interventions. These are just pictures what we have done. Next.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. So this is the final one, ma'am. Amrit Sarovar, like I said, we had 125 tanks and 75 tanks already completed. This project is an eye opener in terms of involving the community, ma'am. And they are going to kind of take care of it because they were involved in right from the planning, execution, as well as the inauguration as well, ma'am. So that is a one good lesson we learned from this Amrit Sarovars. Next. You can just run through the pictures what we did. Just go through the pictures. That's it.
We've got it, boss. Please, thank you, slide pair.
Yes, ma'am.
Last slide.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank
you, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, like you said, this sustainability part, ma'am, this JalShakti Kendras, ma'am, which we are collecting all the legacy data as well as the perspective plan for the district. That is going to be a single point of source for the future teams who are going to come and take up whatever the initiatives we have done, ma'am. So that is going to be a one magical unit, which is a recent intervention from this point, ma'am. So I
But
thank
you
you very
won't get a
much
kiss for that for exceeding your time, like.
Thank you, ma'am. I'm done, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So, okay, band karo. See, Dinesh, what I found fantastic about your presentation was that it was almost a tutorial in planning of JSA, you know, that, I mean, you are what would be a specialist delight in the IAS, what they say, na, get a specialist. So very well analyzed, loved your differential strategy. And only thing is, you know, post-monsoon data also, if you could show, that would have been great. And how have you, and please be short on this, how have you solved the problem of plants dying after being planted because of lack of watering? Because this is a common issue which we are facing all over. Just short.
Ma'am, the plantation cannot go along without any kind of a water sources nearby, ma'am. So if we anywhere we are going to target, if it is just blindly, if we are going to plant avenue or any kind of a hillocks, it's not going to be sustainable. So wherever we are creating a structures of water conservation, let it be a small dugout pond, we can have intensive plantation across. So greening of hillocks is not going to totally greening the entire hillock, but wherever we can find a little water source and there's an intervention, we intensively do that. And we keep increasing year over year. So that's the only strategy, ma'am. And the local involving the local people, ma'am, that is also is going to definitely create, because they are the people who are going to make or break, because most of the plantation being eaten away by the cattle. So unless and when we can make sure that is not done, definitely it's going to be sustained.
Acha, just tell me, okay, I forgot the question, but chalo, thank you, Dinesh, but that was a wonderful, you know, only thing is just, you know, in future, just make it short. One
Sure.
hydrological unit, showcase that, then everybody understands. We don't want to see your achievements. We basically want to learn from you, because
Yes.
it is very evident that you have huge technical knowledge. Oh yes, I wanted to ask, are you a hydrologist?
No, ma'am, I'm a computer scientist. I mean, I've done my computer science.
Okay, so theek hai. So thank you so much. Now, Vikas, we open it to the DCs, and yes, we will be sharing all the presentations of both these wonderful DM presentations and also this ours. But anything you want to share, because see, there are some common problems which have been highlighted, like material to wage component in Narega, plantation problems, then encroachments, anything else, especially with Vikas, who can solve a lot of your problems. Anything you want to say, just raise your hand and then APEC can then pin you.
Looks like everybody got a heavy dose of PPTs, so
Okay.
are not very inclined for questions. So just to clarify, this issue of wage material ratio did come up during our discussions with the states also. We believe that the wage material ratio is not work-wise. It is the ratio to be maintained largely at the state level, maybe in some states at the district level, or even at the block level. The nature of works that is required to be undertaken is such that through a combination of works, the ratio perhaps can be maintained. For example, under the JSACTR, you'll be undertaking a lot of water conservation works, which are largely labor-oriented. Some of these works may require some machine component. For example, Narega perhaps does not permit utilization of machines for deepening or desilting of tanks, etc. There, we'd share with you that there are other initiatives going on from the Department of Drinking Water and Sanitation in partnership with two NGOs. So the Chandra Foundation is working in Madhya Pradesh on the model of, on the similar lines as was presented a short while ago, where, the machines are hired for desilting, and it's only the desilting cost or the digging cost that is borne through a civil society initiative, and the silt, etc., is carried to the fields of the farmers by themselves. So that's one way of trying to optimize on costs. There's another initiative. Bharatiya Jan Sangathan is working with us, and I'm sure they must have approached you in some of your districts, which are included in their list also. They're working in around 100 districts, with additional 50 districts where we have advised them to develop capacities of local NGOs to work on the same model, which is again the same model where they request the state government to notify a rate at which POL can be provided for machinery. They mobilize the machinery. The POL, etc., has to be paid, but then all other costs are taken care of by the community. So that's another initiative. But I'm sure that looking at the nature of works that need to be undertaken, there's very little. The kind of works perhaps would not require much higher proportion of material contribution. For the direct
sometimes because what they say is that, if it's a huge tank or a huge lake, then manual desilting in timely and manual
that I
desilting is
think,
not possible.
Yeah, so huge dams and lakes, as I said in the beginning also, perhaps is not the ambit of this campaign. The ambit of this campaign is catch the rain where it falls, when it falls. Focus on
No, don't give them any injunctions. Let them try other sources like NITI
there,
Aayog.
I'm largely helpless because we can't recommend any resources. We don't have any mandate and resources in the Department of Drinking Water and Sanitation. But if you face such issues and there is a proposal of that nature and you're not able to accommodate in the existing guidelines of NREGA, please do let us know so that we can facilitate it, take it up with your state government and try and find a way. But largely for the activities at the village level and such cases where you have to undertake desilting of a large dam or a reservoir will be very sporadic. Would rather be exceptions than the rule. More often than not, it will ultimately boil down to getting the communities to realize that drinking water sources sustainability is an important issue, and identify local water bodies which can be then prepared for enabling maximum amount of recharge in the groundwater aquifer. Just to share a couple of more things, we have been working with Bhabha Atomic Research Center. They have done some work on isotope signatures. We have had this interaction with the government of Madhya Pradesh, with a few districts present in that meeting. Government of Punjab is also now looking at it. So what they do is they capture the isotope signatures of the water available in the tanks, the water available in the groundwater aquifer, and they measure these, they take samples before and after the monsoon to determine the isotope signature of the rainwater. And then they try and link and map which water body has the maximum effect on recharge of which groundwater aquifer or source. So that's something that can also be looked at. If you would like to take it up in your district, please let us know. We can facilitate your interaction with BARC, and their teams can come over to your district, take those samples, and I used to really struggle when I used to be in the districts in terms to try and find out which tank is the most beneficial from the point of view of recharge of groundwater. So you may be having 20 tanks. but you may have desilted all of them, but you may sometimes find that perhaps the groundwater recharge is not as much as you thought it should be, or there is very little impact because the aquifers, the subsurface flows, etc., that information is largely not available at the district level. Now, perhaps with all the work that has been done in National Aquifer Mapping of the CG Groundwater Board, the Central Groundwater Board, a lot of information is now available, but still it remains a challenge to utilize the limited amount of resources that we have in the most efficient manner in terms of trying to undertake focus interventions on the water bodies. So if you would be interested in that, please let us know. We can facilitate that that kind of approach also. This work has been done in Srikakulam in Andhra Pradesh. So colleagues from Andhra Pradesh can immediately get in touch with them. This is also now being done in Madhya Pradesh and Karnataka and Punjab. So these are the three states where this initiative has made some headway. I believe some of the villages, some areas have been identified for exploring more extensive use of this technology. The BARC has also done pilots in Himalayan states of Uttarakhand and Sikkim, where they have helped these states to identify the right kind of catchment area treatment plan for rejuvenation of spring sources. So along the slope, which are the points from where there is maximum recharge in a spring, that is what they try and bring out. So in terms of your contour trenching and bunding and putting up various kinds of structures in the watershed area, which are the points at which these structures will yield the maximum amount of recharge by matching the isotope signatures at that point and at the spring is what they do. And this is a technology which is extensively widely used in West. We have not been using it so far because we didn't have much experience with it, but now BARC has both experience and a lot of capacity in terms of collecting samples and measuring the isotope signatures, because that's a fairly intensive process, requires high-end equipment, etc. But they have such facilities now at 6 places in the country, and they assure us that there is sufficient capacity for that. So please do take a look at that also if that might be useful in your context, especially in areas where you've been finding that your efforts of the usual approach of trying to desilt and augment storage capacity is not leading to the solution of stress on groundwater sources, especially during summers. So there perhaps it might be a good idea to find out, is there any site where we can construct a new tank which will then lead to these benefits. So siting of recharge structures and siting of new water bodies, I believe the time has come that we should leverage available technology to the extent possible. So if there's any other question, I'd be very happy to respond and clarify, though we don't see much appetite for Q&A at this point.
Okay.
Yes.
Am I audible, sir? I am Collector Surendra Nagar.
Yes, please.
Sir, we have actually, there has been a town, actually it is a district headquarter itself. Vadwan is there. Vadwan is part of district headquarters, sir. We have 99 step wells as well as one big water structure that is called Hawa Mahal. So not of Jaipur, but that of Surendranagar. So it's a huge structure. Now I want to develop that, sir. There are 99 step wells. Out of that, only one I was able to manage. One we have cleaned and we have augmented, and the things are going good rather in that area. And that was basically, it was for this rainwater harvesting. These all are step wells and rainwater harvesting structures. So there are 99 of them, sir. requires huge effort and maybe money also.
Okay, so
And it is in urban parts, sir. Otherwise,
yes.
if it is if it was a rural, I might have done.
Rural, you would have no dearth
Yeah.
of resources. We'll find resources from anywhere.
Yes.
Urban, I think, Archana will have to take it up with Mahua to also issue some guidelines in terms of how the existing resources available under Mission Amrit or other schemes of the Mahua can be leveraged for rejuvenation of traditional water bodies or water structures, so that the districts are able to find resources for the works that are required to be undertaken.
Sir.
Yeah. So, yeah. So Archana, I don't think we have any more questions. I believe we can thank our colleagues for taking time out on holiday. I believe it's a holiday everywhere, whether for Baisakhi or for Ambedkar Jayanti or for Bihu, or I mean somebody sent me a good collage in my friends WhatsApp group. There are 6 occasions in different parts of the country, and of course Ambedkar Jayanti. I believe it's a holiday everywhere. So thanks everyone for taking time out on a holiday. And let's all work together and try and make sure that we do take up all the required works and tasks in a time-bound manner and make it a success.
So thank you all. There is Satuani also in Bihar, where I come from. You eat sattu. So happy Satuani, B.R. Ambedkar Jayanti, Bihu, Vaisakhi, whatever. And we will be putting all of you on WhatsApp. And I am known to be a terror in monitoring, and we will be monitoring and awarding you at the end of the year. Maybe in 2 groups, Northeast and Hilly States alag and you guys alag. So because Vikas has made very clear KPIs, so we don't have to do anything until we stabilize our MIS. On 1st and 15th, please submit the report in that checklist that we have circulated. So if you don't, then my guys will be ringing you up and harassing you. Thank you so much for utilizing your holiday so beautifully, learning about water. Thanks a ton. We'll be meeting again.